All right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to put the thread base on. I'm going to leave that gap by the hook eye for finishing my fly. I'm going to run my thread base back to just past the point of the hook. I don't want my thread to start down the around the bend of the hook. Now, does everybody have a hair stacker? It may not be brass, you may have a plastic, you may have an aluminum. You will need this. We are going to use, again, a red fox squirrel. Now, when you're going to go and get some hair off the tail, I could use the top, which is very nice, and you can see I have done it, and I will use it to save the red hair for you guys. But when you go to take hair off, remember, this is the part that the part of the clump that you're cutting off that is going to be on the fly. So you probably have to cut a bigger bundle down at the bone than you want.
Can you bring it up a little?
You can see the picture. Up and to the left. There you go.
Up, okay.
Down a little bit now.
Okay,
There you go.
I'll tell you what. Let's get that out of the way.
There you go.
When we go to the squirrel tail, now, you can also use the guard hairs off a mask, but there's not many of them, and they're a pain in the ass to get at, but I'll show you where they're at. My mask doesn't have a good guard hair. This is the part of the feather or the hair bundle that we're going to be using for the tail.
Anybody else need one?
That may be a little too much, but it is easier to subtract than it is add. So when you go to and you're on the bone end of the tail, you have to judge out here for how much you want for your fly, and then just cut this larger quantity at the back, and don't drop it. Now, hold your clump of hair by the tips, and what you want to do, this doesn't have too much of it, if any, is get the loose, there's an underwool with most fur. You don't want that underwool in your tail. Dubbing, yes, but not in your tail. Now you want to take this, put this in your hair stacker, point down, and tap it on the table, tap it on your partner's forehead. What this does, you made a clean cut, square cut, all the hair lined up when you cut it off the bone. When you go in here and get it, you will see that the cut ends are all different lengths because you've lined the tips up. And that's what we're looking to do, is line the tips of the hair up. Just like when we used a feather for the pheasant tail nymph, we couldn't use a stacker, so we pulled it out at a 90-degree angle and stacked the feather. This is how we stack some hair. Some hair is just it's ungodly to work with. Again, the top of your hair stacker should come off. You reach in and get it. Now you can see how the ends look pretty well together. All right. Don't drop it. Now, I'm going to squeeze it together, and it may be just a tad more than I want. So I'm going to hold my points. I'm going to pull a few hair follicles out of there. And when you work with hair, it's messy. And that's still a little too much.
How are you gauging the amount?
Eyeball. just, I want it to be there, but I don't want it to look out of place. And I like that. Now, I want this,
Looks like the ball might be 3/4 of the hook gap.
I want this to be, can you see that short, stubby? I'm about a hook gap past the bend of the hook. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to get a few soft wraps on it. Take a look at it. Make sure it's not rolling gigantically away from me. And again, I like to just take some soft so I can keep my body parallel. I'm going to come right up here. I'm not going to tie all the way to the eye. And I want this to stop rolling. And it doesn't want to. Now, I'm going to take, and I wrapped. I took part of my, I went too far forward. Alright, I've got a nice stubby tail sticking straight out from the fly. Now you have gold, copper wire. We did have some trouble getting gold wire. I have a little bit of my own up here. You're more than welcome to what I have left. The original pattern calls for a product called French oval tinsel. For some reason, Orvis never has it, and I don't know why. But you have to buy it out of the catalogs. Buy medium for this size fly or better. It's a soft material. It does make a nice fly, and I didn't have any either, or I'd have brought it with me. Again, I'm going to tie my wire on. Again, you can see that I running my mouth, I went too far with my tail material. I'm going to tie my wire in. I'm kind of putting it on the far side. I'm going to I'll use my own material here, which is dark hare's ear. Again, I am just going to put the abdomen in. I like to spin the noodle very tightly. Again, whoop, you are working close to the hook point. Be careful. And I need a little bit more. Again, proportion wise, just the same as the pheasant tail, about 60% and 40%. Now a little something, maybe it's just the way I tie, but when I tie the thorax, or excuse me, the abdomen, I kind of just make it about 50%, because I do have a tendency to overrun it, as you can see by what I did earlier. And I'm going to stop right there. I've made a couple of dubbing turns, or a couple thread turns. Now, this is completely up to you, whether you cross wrap your wire or you wrap away from you. That's completely up to you. I always cross wrap, and I told you, and I'll tell you again, your wire or your ribbing material shows up better. You're cross wrapping your thread wraps, which give it strength. it seems to pull the material down a little better and give you the body segments, because if you go with the material, you can hit the, per se, the record grooves or the threads as you're going forward with your material. And I've actually had times where I've lost them. You couldn't see them at all. That is, that's as personal as your toothbrush. Now, if you'll notice, this is dubbed a little on the heavy side. And I'm going to show you when we get the fly finished why it's that way. And you can make a homemade tool. Can't be right. I had a pair of scissors here. Again, when we counter wrap, we have to watch that we don't unwrap our ribbing material, because we are wrapping against it and it does have a tendency to loosen it. There's a piece of turkey tail on everybody's table. I'd forgotten my dividers, so I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to, none of these tails or tail feathers have been sprayed, by the way. I don't like the way that one looks. I'm going to cut a piece off. It'd be about as wide as the hook gap. Again, I'm not going to stack this feather. I'm just separating what I think is going to be the right amount. And again, if you take a bare hook, you can put it in on the end of the feather, slide the bare hook down the side of the open side of the barbels, and let the point take off what you want. And here's one thing, when in doubt, go more. You've heard us say, Ron said it, I've said it, less is more. Here's one case where sometimes, in most cases, more can be better. Now again, the outer part of the tail feather is softer. It bends easier. I'm going to square that up slightly. I'm going to tie that on. Right. I want to make sure that's on top of the hook. And again, I'm tying that so that you can see. This we'll call the weather side of the feather. This would be the body side. I'm tying this strip of feather in with the weather side down, so that when I fold it over, this prettier side, the better coloring and actually the better color is on top. Now I'm going to go back to my same color dubbing. Again, I'm doing a dark pattern. I personally had more luck 2 years ago, I think it was. Leonard and I were in north central Pennsylvania steelhead fishing, and number 16 gold-ribbed hare's ear nymphs, number 16, were the fly of choice. Again, that's not too bad. Now I'm going to fold my, this gets no legs. My wing case did twist a little bit on me. A couple of soft wraps here. Make sure she's up on the top. She don't look bad. one underneath it. Now, we've talked about this before. The angle, this is a turn down eye hook. The angle of that hook is the angle of my cut. Now I'm going to build the head of the fly. Again, I'm going to use 2 4-turn knots. Oh, lucky there. Now, how do we make this thing look like a bug? Bob Boehner made this one for me last year. It's about a 5/16 dowel. Put in a pencil sharpener. You have to get some, you can buy the Velcro, or if you've got an old hand brace or back brace or anything that's got the spiky side of the Velcro on. This is the original tool. I keep this in this box. It's my travel box. This is the one I keep on my fly bench. One of those cheap giveaway pencils that somebody was advertising, and it's glued on, and it's if you get up close to it, it's got some olive thread that held it on. We got to give this body, we got to make this look like a fly. Is that still visible? Part of my tail. And this gives you the leggy, buggy.
You can pick up that Velcro at Dollar General too. You get, I use the same thing Bill does. You get 6 pieces for $1.
There you go.
And like that, so if you have time with somebody want to share it, I'll even look for next time if I got something laying around the house. I'll put it in. But Dollar General, if you want to pick it up.
How does that look? Can everybody see that? Then again, this is the fly tied dark. I didn't bring tweezers today. No, but I got a pair of. Okay, does that show any better, folks?
That looks good.
There's looking straight on, underneath, from the rear. Questions? It's a pheasant tail nymph, same proportion, except 99% of the fly is fur and hair. And we've dubbed, which we haven't done before, and we've stacked hair for the tail. Questions? I'll pass out. Yes, Jim.
This is the Hares ear nymph.
Gold rib hare's ear nymphs, yes. And you've got copper wire, and I've got a little bit of gold. And again, we couldn't get the French oval tinsel at Orvis. I don't know why they don't carry it, but critiquing my own fly, I could have made the tail slightly shorter, but I didn't. Again, I'd fish it anyway. I wouldn't throw it away. If I thought it was rotten, I'd give it to Larry, but
I think they said you need about half the